So, when most people think women in motorsports, names like Michelle Mouton and Danica Patrick come to mind, as they are widely renowned as being some of the coolest and fastest drivers on the planet. Unless one of them tries their hand at NASCAR, then it usually doesn't end well. However, a woman who I think doesn't get nearly enough credit is a certain Irish lady who blazed the path for the likes of Michelle Mouton, and did some absolutely savage things along the way. Rosemary Smith was born in Dublin, Ireland on August 7th, 1937. She was born into a middle-class family and from a young age wanted to carve her own path. See, it started out small. When she should have been in grade school, she decided to blow that off and instead try her hand at modeling and dressmaking. And as it turned out, she was damn good at dressmaking, like really good. She spent the rest of her childhood and teenage years honing her skill until people in the surrounding cities started taking notice. She bounced around different high-end designer dress shops, gaining a massive client base the entire time. One of those clients happened to have a husband by the name of Frank Big R, who was extremely wealthy and who had a massive passion for motorsports. Enough so that not only did he race in rallies and win them, but he won the Monte Carlo rally, and he got his wife her own car to race as well, and she just so happened to be looking for a co-driver, and she apparently thought that Rosemary would be a quote-unquote good company. Those are our exact words, I swear. See, what that rich lady didn't know was that Rosemary's second hobby was actually motorsports, as her father taught her how to drive when she was just 11, and she was so hooked on it that she couldn't wait to get behind the wheel, so much so that she ended up figuring out a way to fake her age in order to get her license when she was only 16, even though in Ireland she wasn't supposed to get it until she was 17. Now, when Rosemary and Frank's wife Delphine showed up to a rally in a small Irish town called Kilkenny, they were the only women on the grid, but that didn't stop them. They raced just as hard as everyone else, except there was a problem. See, while Rosemary was exceptional at making dresses, she was subpar at best at being a co-driver, and so the results suffered throughout the entire weekend. That is, until Rosemary had an idea. Why not switch positions and have her drive, and then have Delphine be the co-driver? I mean, it's not like it could get any worse, so what do they have to lose? And so they tried that, and it ended up working, maybe a little too well, as they began absolutely slaughtering the competition, not just at Kilkenny, but pretty soon at rallies all over the world. Her and Delphine did so well that soon after, Rosemary was offered a full-time drive at the British rally team Roots, a factory team capable of getting her the machinery in order to win. So with that, she gained widespread notoriety when in 1965, she won the Dutch rally, except it wasn't a true win. See, back in the 60s, I know this may be shocking to some of you, women weren't allowed to race in the big leagues with the men, so Rosemary was forced to race in an all-women's categories. This didn't make her win any less meaningful though, as she beat out a metric assload of men time-wise, and proved she could not only hang with, but also beat up the big dogs, even if the race organizers wouldn't let her. This continued on as she absolutely dominated competition in rallies all over the world, but it wasn't just rallies. She was also choosing to take up endurance racing in her spare time, racing in the 24 hours of Daytona, the 12 hours of Sebring, and the 9 hours at Kyalami. And she didn't do terrible either, managing to finish in the top 10 on most occasions. But even still, I would argue that it wasn't really her fault, as it was more her machinery that was holding her back, not her ability as a driver. As when she did race, she was in cars like the Sunbeam Alpine and his Sunbeam Rapier. It came to a head though, as in 1970 at the 12 hours of Sebring, she started 50th in her Austin Sprite, and somehow managed to almost literally drag it up to 19th, which doesn't sound too impressive until you look closer at the results and realize she took first in her class. Absolutely mental in a car like that. Anyways, rewinding a little bit back to her rallying career, after that Dutch rally win, she started picking up wins like Andrew Tate picks up women at traffic pretty easily and pretty frequently. But it wasn't just quote-unquote normal rallies she was competing and dominating in. She was competing in rallies like the London to Sydney rally, which is exactly what it sounds like. A rally race that travels from London in the UK to Sydney, Australia, with the only extended break being a ride on a container ship from India to Australia. Otherwise, it was flat out racing until you needed to sleep or eat. And even then, once you were done, it was back to mashing your foot to the floor. The amount of stunning results she took in rallies all over the world. Honestly, there's just too many to list in just one video. But one highlight I just have to share with you guys comes from said London to Sydney rally. She was racing in Afghanistan when she suddenly got a very bad case of piston slap, causing her Ford Cortina to continuously lose power. However, she realized that if she drove it in reverse, it would manage to go faster. So that's just what she did. She went balls to the wall fast, and you know what? Let me just explain the situation just so you understand just how absolutely crazy this is. See, even if someone did something like this today, it would be all over TikTok and Twitter tomorrow. But back then, it was way more crazy and dangerous. Keep in mind, first off, this is the 60s. She's in the middle of the Afghan desert, and it's not like nowadays with the Baja 1000 or the Dakar Rally, where drivers and co-drivers use GPS. These drivers relied on good old-fashioned map and compass. So imagine trying to navigate while driving in reverse, let alone at max attack in reverse. On top of that, you are all alone in the middle of the desert. It's not like today where helicopters follow drivers and each vehicle is equipped with GPS monitoring. If you crash and you're in trouble, tough shit, dude, because you're probably not gonna make it, especially since you're in a 60s race race car, which, as everyone knows, safety was never exactly a priority. So even with all of that stacked against her, she still managed to wrestle her damaged Cortina to finish the stage. Absolutely mental, but believe me, it still isn't over. See, a little while later, she decided that for whatever reason, she was bored of rally driving. You know, obviously as one does. I mean, who doesn't get bored of Max attacking? And wanted to become the fastest person in all of Ireland. And so she got to it, finding a white Jaguar and modifying it, and then proceeding to take it on a highway and proceeding to drive 180 miles an hour in a road legal car in the 70s. Not once, but twice, as those are speed record rules. 2 passes, each in different directions. But believe me, the craziness still hasn't ended, because see, in 2016, Renault, the car company, was looking into ways to help celebrate that they had competed in Formula 1 for 50 years, both as an engine manufacturer and as a works competitor. And as they searched, they heard about a lady in Ireland who helped teach young drivers, and on the side used Renault Clio RSs to teach racing techniques. When they got wind of this, originally they just wanted to use her for PR for the Renault brand, not the F1 team, until they found out who it was. See, it wasn't any ordinary lady, it was Rosemary. And once they learned that, they started digging into her racing history and found out she had a winning list a mile long and a trophy cabinet case the size of Texas. Upon learning this, they came up with an idea. They approached Rosemary and asked her what any motorsports fan can quite literally only dream of hearing. They asked if she wanted to drive a Formula 1 car. Now, obviously she said yes, but some of you may be listening and asking yourself a question right now. If she competed in races in the 60s and 70s, how the hell can she drive an F1 car? What, was she a teenager when all that happened? No, she wasn't, but that didn't matter. So in 2017, at the ripe young age of 79, Rosemary Smith became the oldest person to get behind the wheel of an F1 car, driving the Renault RS17. If you caught that, they weren't just giving her some 5-year-old car, they were giving her the exact same cars that the drivers were using for that year. That is beyond crazy. For those of you that don't know, F1 only lets you test cars that you're using for that year for very limited amounts of time. So to entrust her with that is massive, to say the least. She got a briefing on how to understand the systems and how the car itself worked. And even though she needed help getting in and out of the car, for one last time she proved that the spirit that she used to win at legendary races like Sebring, Monte Carlo, and more was still there. As when she did real testing with the team, she was clocked at reaching speeds of up to 180 miles an hour, which for anyone who knows the circuit Paul Ricard in the 2017 F1 cars, you know just how impressive that is. Nowadays, Rosemary spends her time advocating for the next generation, pushing hard for driving to be taught in schools all over the world for young children.